this is my testimony in my life, my part of it. Part of it, I'm gonna let it go fly, and let the Holy Spirit guide me, because I'm just gonna tell my story. And it starts whenever I was 7 years old. I had a fondness for the smell of gasoline, and this is 1977. And I asked my mom at the gas pumps at the store, I asked her if I could help her pump gas. And she said, sure, Bob, go ahead and you can help me. And so I got out and I was pumping gas in the car, started smelling it, and realized that, wow, this stuff gives you a head change. And, made your head buzz. And so I started doing it a little more. I'd mow the lawn and take the lid off the lawnmower and I realized this stuff really makes you, head change and kind of takes you out of the world, You start seeing things and hearing things too. But anyway, I woke up one day and I don't know where my little brother was or my sister, but it was just me and my mom at the house, and she was vacuuming the floor, and I asked my mom if I could go down the street and play with my girlfriend, see if my girlfriend's home, my friends are home. She said, sure, Bob, just be home by lunch. So I took off down the street, and I went down the street and I knocked on their door, and nobody answered. So I kept on knocking and nobody answered. So I'm just sitting around. Let me shut this window.
Sure.
And I'm sitting there thinking, nobody's home. Well, it's boring. It's boring. It's not nobody home. But they had this old dilapidated garage, and it had a chain on the door, and I had a gap in it like that, so I was able to squeeze through there. And I went through in there and went inside, and all that was in there was an old muscle car and a Honda Goldwing. And so I climbed up on that Honda Goldwing, and I took the gas lid off, and I was sitting there huffing gas. But my mouth and my nose were both picked off in there, and I was just huffing away on that gas. And the next thing I know, I hit the floor, and I'm on the floor, and I'm like this, I'm shaking, and I'm gagging, I'm trying to catch my breath, and I'm choking, and I look at my skin, and it's as white as this right here, and I'm still trying to catch my breath, and I'm staring at the motorcycle, and I finally caught my breath, and I jumped up, and I squeezed back through the door, and I ran down the street and went into my house, crawled in my bed, and pulled the covers over my head, and I slept till the next day. And the next day I woke up, and I was okay, and nobody found out about it, nobody knew about it, so I didn't get caught, and I was okay. So I just put that day behind me, and I never thought of it again. Okay, now, fast forward 35 years. I've done had children, and they're on up in teenage years, they're grown, basically. But I was 35 years later, I was in Sacramento, California, and I was on a city bus full of people, and I'm headed back to my apartment, and I'm just looking around, looking at things, and all of a sudden a voice in my head asked me, do you remember when you were 7 years old and you went in that garage and climbed up on that motorcycle? And I went, yeah, what about it? And I knew this could only be God, because I never told anybody. I hadn't even thought of that day for 35 years. And so I didn't hear anything. And so I said it again. I asked again. I said, yeah, what about it? And I still didn't hear anything. This suspense is just killing me, And he said, you died. And I said, no, I didn't die. I'm not dead. I'm alive. There's no dead. There's no dead. I'm not dead. He said, it is what it is. And that's when he hit me with a vision of me as a little 7-year-old boy with curly hair. And I walked between a man's legs, and he went like this, and he looked between his legs, and he turned around and snatched me up. And he's holding me in front of an old man sitting on a throne. And he said, God, what do I do with this? And he takes me, and he says, oh, this isn't right. This isn't right. Look how cute he is. Look at that curly hair. Look at them eyes. He said, this young man's going to have a hard life. He's going to love me and he's going to hate me, but he's going to do great things. And he showed me his face, and his face changed to Jesus' face. And then that's when I seen an angel of light slap me off of that motorcycle. And I snapped out of the vision then. And I'm looking around on the bus and wondering if anybody else could see what I just saw. I mean, it was just, of course they didn't, but yeah, then I'm like, wow, okay, God, I died. I mean, you just let me know that you put my soul back in my body and gave me a second chance at life. But God saved my life more times than I can even count. I mean, I can't count that many. And I've come close to dying or yeah. But anyway, I'm hooked on drugs real bad at the time, methamphetamine, and I was headed back to my house. I wasn't high at the time, but I was going back to because I hadn't been high in a day or so, and I was going back, to do something. But all my sins, all these years, all of them just come crashing down on me like a ton of bricks, and I said, God, I said, okay, so you saved my life. I died apparently, and I said, what do you expect of me? What do you want from me? He said, I don't want anything from you. He said, I just want you to be happy. And then I was like, wow, God, you do make me happy. But I was thinking at the same time, well, yeah, but is it God that makes you happy, or is it the drugs that you're doing that makes making you happy? And the alcohol. Yeah. As you say, my life hasn't been the same yet. This was in 2012 when this happened. And I put it off sharing my testimony because, I have a little out of fear, but mainly because, I think it's supposed to happen when the time is right and it's supposed to happen, and God's timing is not always the same as ours, and He knows when things should come out in the open, and there's more to it than that, but basically that's what I want to share, and especially with Crystal love for Jesus. She is, I'm going to make sure she gets this email to her. As long as it's not over 20 minutes, I think hopefully she'll play it perfectly. But yes, God, I ask that Crystal, she keeps doing what she's doing. Bless her heart. She is helping so many people, and there's a lot of people with dreams and visions. And I'm one that's been blessed with dreams and visions. Also, and this is important because it's about also, I think it has a lot to do with the rapture. But even though it was a vision that happened to me back in 2003, and I was in my living room in my apartment, and I was wide awake, but I had a little crystal. It had Jesus in the middle of it. It was glass. I don't know if it was crystal, but it was glass, and it had a picture of Jesus in the middle of it, and it sat on top of a light that rotated. And I had it in my window, and so you could see the perfection of Jesus everywhere. And I was leaning up against my couch, and all of a sudden I was transported back in time. I was kind of dozing off, but I wasn't asleep. I had my eyes, resting my eyes. All of a sudden I was transported back in time, and I could see Noah's Ark, and I could see Noah standing at the top of the entrance, and he was standing there, and he had long white hair and a long white beard, and he's standing there with a shepherd's staff that curved at the top. And I looked down, and I could see the animals coming up. I seen 2 giraffes, 2 elephants, 2 rhinos, just 2 animals, and they were just in a line, 2 animals at a time. It just went curved like this and went off as far as I could see. And then I snapped out of that vision. And that one was when I was wide awake. That's how I know the difference between a vision and a dream. Because a dream is when you're asleep, and a vision is when you're awake. And boy, it put the fear in me. I tell you, I took off down the street. I didn't have a phone back then. It was before I ever had a cell phone. And I went to the store, and I called my girlfriend up, and I was so scared, and I said, will you marry me? And she said, marry you? She said, no, I don't want to get married. She said, why are you asking me that? I said, because I told her the vision I just had. I told her the vision I just had, And I said, we're living in sin. I want to get married. Now, we should get married. And she said, oh, come on, man. You just imagined it. It's just your imagination. And so that was, after that, you know, I needed to say, I mean, yeah, me and her didn't work out that after that. But that's very important that I throw that vision in there, because Jesus is the ark now. Jesus is the ark, and people, it's important for people to repent of their sins and get saved. I mean, we're in the last days, and I know that I have a special connection with Jesus because of what happened to me as a little boy and what he showed me. But it doesn't make me any different than anybody else. You know, I just know that he speaks to me, and he told me he's coming soon. He just told me a few months ago. I was on the way to work. I was on the way with my brother to work, and just out of nowhere he said that to me, and my brother's having a hard time believing, you know, what I tell him, and I've been praying on it, fasting and praying on it, and hopefully he's going to come around, you know, and because I mean I know he believes, but at the same time he doesn't believe that the Bible is true, you know. He believes in Jesus, but he doesn't believe the Bible's true, and so that's I mean, you can't. That's a contradiction there, because Jesus is the Word, you know. So anyway, that's my testimony, and God bless everybody. God bless.